Welcome back to the show, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Bobby Sahni, your entertainment correspondent. Each and every week we bring you the latest and greatest in entertainment. Today I'm very pleased and honored to have the talent behind the talent, the man who composes the music for many of our talented musicians, both locally and abroad. Please welcome Mr. Vikas, music producer of Fat Lab Studios.
Thank you, Bobby. Well, you're the talent in front of my talent, right? Because you're right in front of the public eye.
So you're going to make me talented?
Come down to the studio, we'll record a hip-hop album.
Good
I know
deal.
you got it in you.
Good deal. That's me. So Vikas, tell me, what's Fat Labs all about?
Fat Labs is all about making people like you stars. No,
Done. Deal. It's, when do I sign?
Well, Fat Labs is my studio, spelt with an F because I'm not that cool, not PH.
You're not PH.
No,
okay.
no. That's very 90s. I'm all about 2009, spelling properly.
Very
against the whole Twitter revolution.
Awesome.
But it's the studio where I work with artists. I sit down there every day for hours on end. I never see daylight, and I try to turn out as many songs as I can, work with as many artists as I can, both doing what I guess they call private albums, and also doing soundtrack work. Mm-hmm. So, you know, wherever I can make music, I will find a way to make it.
So, I mean, it's interesting. Of course, on TV and magazines, we read the artist interviews with various artists and hear about how they got started in the business, how they became a singer, and oh, I grew up and I always wanted to be a singer. But you're on the other end. You're the producer here.
Yeah.
So, did you want to become a singer? How did the production side of things happen with you?
Well, I think any normal human really just wanted to either be a guitar player or a singer, right? You know, a rock star of some sort. For those who didn't, I don't know, I guess I just called you abnormal, but you know, they're probably not coming to the studio anyway. But yeah, I started out, you know, being the musician, being on stage, playing in bands. And then eventually those bands moved on to record, and I took a real interest in the recording process when that happened, and that sort of sparked my interest from that side. And at the same time, I was moving away from looking at music from a musician's perspective to being more of a songwriter. Mm-hmm. So then eventually the idea of taking care of the music production and the songwriting took hold of my interest, and that's the role of a producer. So I thought, okay, well, instead of lugging my amp and my guitar around to the stages around Toronto, I think instead I'll build a studio and see who knocks on my door. And thankfully, a few people knocked. So.
Well, let's talk about some of those people that have knocked on your door. I mean, you have a pretty impressive list of people that you have worked with, and I think we have a clip of one of them as well.
Everyone gets a free samosa, so that's awesome. Kind of the incentive, right?
You know how to run a business, I'll tell you
that's
that.
It.
So what was it like working with Mr. Mika Singh?
That was really great. What was very cool about working with him is that he himself is a good musician. So actually, I guess we've got the video.
We've got a clip going.
Should we be talking over this?
As well.
This would be the Whiskey song.
Okay.
It's actually the very first song that I worked on with Mika. And one of the cool things about this song was he performed this song while we were finishing it. Literally, we finished it on a Friday evening, and he took the track to the Brampton Stadium. I think there's probably a lot of your viewers probably there, and he performed the track live, and I think there was about 40,000 or 60,000 people there. Literally hot off the presses, if there were presses at Fat Labs, then that would be the scenario.
So we also have some footage of you behind the scenes as well. What was it like, that whole experience? How did he end up at Fat Lab Studios?
You know, that's a funny thing. He heard some music that I had produced for another artist, it was when he was in India, and I didn't realize that he'd even heard the music. Mm-hmm. And he was coming by Toronto on his way to New York, and I got the chance to meet him, and I thought, okay, let's just make a connection and see what happens for later. Mm-hmm. Later ended up being pretty much the next day, because he just turned to me and he said, I'll come to your studio tomorrow. And he just wanted to hear all the other hip hop and rock and reggae acts that I worked with. And then we started working on a handful of songs. And after he finished his tour in New York, he came to Mississauga, stayed here for about a month, every day down in the studio, and worked on a bunch of songs. Whiskey was one of them. This other one, Nazre Milani Wali, was another track. And there's a few more coming out too.
Oh, that's excellent. I mean, it's great to see that you've already cracked the mainstream scene, not only locally but in Bollywood as well. So it's something very impressive, and I totally commend you on that.
It must be the samosas.
It must be the samosas. So tell me about what was kind of the defining moment for you when you felt like, you know, this is what I was meant to do. This feels good.
Well, there's probably a whole series of those moments. Probably one of the defining moments was probably when I realized what I didn't want to do, which is
and what was that?
Which was when I was working in finance before I started the studio, and just sort of thought about it and said, wow, this is, you know, I'm doing a good job here, but I really just don't care. So I thought, you know what, I want to do something that I care about, and I always got a kick out of making music, and I get a buzz every time I hear a song completed. It's a fantastic buzz. Now, cooler buzzes on top of that are, I think we were talking earlier about how if you hear the song actually playing on commercial radio, or you see it on TV, or it's performed at an award show, that adds a little bit extra sweetness to the whole feeling. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So what track was that? You heard it on the radio?
The first track that I worked on that was on the radio was a song called "Show You" by this R&B artist named Tash, and then the hip-hop artist after that, a duo called Tef and Don. They also charted on Flow. And there was another artist by the name of GQ #1. So one by one, these hip-hop artists were charting, and that was very cool. Then after that, The Responsible started doing really cool things. They're a punk band that I've been working with for a few years. We've done 3 discs now together. The last 2 were nominated for Best Punk Recording of the Year, and this last one broke the top 20 on the Earshot radio charts across Canada. So, you know, just seeing, you know, that name and the album name and the artist name on the charts, you know, breaking the top 20 and breaking the top 10 in a lot of Canadian cities, that's, again, it's just such a cool feeling. And, you know, I wish I could steal more spotlight, you know, but I have to say it is technically, you know, that's the Responsibles, but that's really good for them.
No, it's really good to hear. So, I mean, obviously Mika Singh is Punjabi Bhangra music.
Right.
You know, you've mentioned rock and hip-hop and punk. Is there any music that you prefer, and is there any music that you would never touch as well?
Music I wouldn't touch. I suppose there are some genres that I haven't bothered with. I can't say, you know, I would know what to do if Yanni came down to the studio.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, I've said it before that there's cool things in every art form and every style of music. And actually, I think it's one of the things that makes Indian music very cool is the really good composers in India are always drawing upon influences, not just within India, but all from the other countries. You know, there's Middle Eastern influences, but we don't even recognize that as Middle Eastern now because we just think it's part of our Indian music.
Yeah.
And obviously, the Western influences have really penetrated Bollywood, not just now with hip hop and rock, but, you know, even back in the 70s, so, you know, Kalyanji and the Nanji, they did some really funky tracks, and they were definitely inspired by the funk movement that was going on, you know, and the disco movement that was going on in the States at the time. So, you know, if those composers weren't listening to what was going on elsewhere, we would never have all those really cool classic Bollywood tracks that we all like to dance to when we go to those club nights and they do the remixes to them, right?
Yeah, yeah, no, very well. So after the break, we're gonna come back and we're gonna continue to chat about yourself, some of the artists you've worked with. So we'll be back right after this with Vikas of Fat Lab Studios.